Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Today, we're going to learn a little bit about our very own Coach Andrew Gu.
Yes.
And his upbringing, his coach life when he was a junior, what inspired him, what got him to where he is today. Stay tuned. Hey guys, are you learning or are you trying to improve your tennis? Are you taking a 1 hour lesson a week or possibly 2 1-hour lessons a week? But are you playing in between? If you're like me and I tried to learn to play the drums, in a 6-month period, I played the drums 30 minutes every week, only during the lessons. So if you want to accelerate your progress in tennis, get a fast track. Because if you're not practicing in between and you don't have a game, at least you can hit 1,000 forehands and 1,000 backhands. That's what the fast track does. It gets your game going. It gets your muscles memorized. So guys, get your game on the fast track and accelerate the progress that you get from your lessons. Click on the link below and get your tennis on the fast track. All right, guys, so this is part of our sit-down coffee sponsor series. Today's coffee sponsor is Renee Perez. Renee writes, "Cheers from another coffee lover, and thank you for answering my previous Pro Kinetics question. Since the Classic Kinetic Pro 5G is still available and lots of people have loved it for more than 20 years, it would be nice to see a video review of some sort, maybe compared to a new Pro Kinetics racket. I haven't found a good video on this racket, and you seem to know a lot about this brand. Again, I really like your videos and your humor. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Renee from Puerto Rico." Thank you, Renee, for sponsoring today's segment of our sit down with Coach Gu today. If you want to be my coffee sponsor or sponsor a segment like this, network is buymeacoffee.com/tennis spin. If you want to just hook us up, super thanks is the way. Link is below. Cheers to you guys, and thank you guys so much.
Hey, there you go.
Thank you, Renee. All right, I'm going to do a 5G one, okay, just for you, because I actually do like that racket, and it's a good player's racket. For those people who are intermediate to advanced and kind of suffering from a little tennis elbow, Pro Kinetics Kinetic 5G. That's the old school one. All right. So, but today we're going to talk about Coach Gu. And, you know, as you guys know, I've been working a little bit with Coachlife. They gave me access to the site, and I've been reading a lot about how, you know, teens kind of grow up learning different things from different coaches. And these are high-level, well-known coaches that have, you know, inspired, taught, pretty much gave their, you know, blood, sweat, and tears to their kids, making sure that they're really, really good. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start by asking you, who was that person in your life, Coach?
I mean, I've been through a lot of coaches as a junior, and, you know, as tennis parents, you pretty much are heavily involved in your kids and to see if they really like the coach and not. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's the player that matters the most, right? Mm-hmm. They enjoy who they're working with, and, you know, they experiment around, right? You try to find the right coach that fits the player's personality, but also what they learn and what style of teaching and coaching, you know, the coach brings.
Right.
But throughout my whole time, I have 2 coaches that I really had in my life that impacted me. One is early in my career, and then the other one was later in my career before I went off to college. The first one is Carlton Jones. He had his own tennis academy of kids, and the funny part was I didn't get recommended, but I got to see a certain player locally that actually played for Stanford. Her name is Caroline Doyle, if you don't remember.
I know
her.
Caroline Doyle, yes.
Caroline Doyle was like a local outstanding tennis player. She was from San Francisco, and she first worked with Carlton Jones for a bit, and then went back over to California Tennis Club, I think, to train with Pablo, who's now my boss, and Steve Jackson. So that was the era that, I was like, hey, this guy seems like he knows what he's talking about. And, that's kind of my first coach that I got serious of playing tennis, like competitive tennis with.
What was it about him, though?
The first thing I really got off of him was just his personality. Like, as a coach, he loved, making people or players smile a lot or joke around a lot. And also was, when it came to competing, it was super knowledgeable. I think that's the one thing, because as a junior, there's some kids that love to compete, and there's some kids that say they love to compete and hate losing. So that was me. It was me that it was the point that I was a great competitor, but not a great, loser. I'll put it that way.
That's okay. I seen Federer slam his racket and kick his thing when he was 10 years old.
Yeah, so I mean, it's normal. I mean, it's normal to see it in those kids because no one likes to lose. But he made it in a way that it was fun. It was always, a good experience, and I think that was the reason why I stayed with him for almost, I would say, like 3.5 years. It was quite a long time. Usually, coaches and players' relationships, especially in the juniors, are pretty short-lived. They're pretty much, in my opinion, around a year or two. 2 is actually kind of stretching it a bit, but usually. I was with him for 3 years and 3.5 years, and I had a lot of fun. It was just the reason why that we parted ways was because I was looking for more kids to practice with. I think he did at that point. My first year or two had a lot of kids that were similar. Caroline was there, and a few other good juniors that were there. But sooner or later, it just kind of slowly dwindled away, and I still loved him, still loved coaching, getting coached by him. But at the end of the day, it was just not enough kids that he
not enough competition for you.
That's true. Yeah. But also not enough, up-and-coming kids that he was focusing on. And I believe he was focusing on another player that was committed to go professionally. So I knew that maybe that was the time to part ways because he was just more focused and more focused his energy into that player that was going professionally.
So 3.5 years, what did you take away? What were the important parts that you took from his coaching?
I think the number one thing was just learning tone. I think learning a player's tone and when to be serious and when to, have them, have fun and enjoy tennis. I think that was the number one thing that I learned from him was, watching a player's kind of demeanor and their and how they react to things and energy levels on certain days, or even just, when to bring that serious talk in and when is the right time to. I think his timing and his tone was something I definitely approached and took away from him.
So you learned from his coaching how to coach somebody else.
Correct. Yes. Okay. And technique. His technique was quite great as well.
Okay.
He was actually another coincidence thing. He was really good friends with Peter Bartlett, as you and I know.
The whole USF connection here.
So that's why. And that brings up to Pablo's kind of thing. That's how I got connected with those guys at USF was because of Carlton Jones.
How old were you during those 3 years?
In those 3 years, I think I was 9 to 12.
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
Okay. Those are important years.
Yeah, those are important years. Those are like the years where like technique is built, and then you start trusting your technique to play points. Mm-hmm. So I was doing like green ball to yellow ball at that point.
Right.
Yeah. That's when USTA didn't really focus on those things.
No.
It was just
you were on the cusp.
I was on the cusp, but at that point they're like, we don't know what red ball, orange ball is, so stick with yellow ball.
Okay. All right. So off to the next guy.
So the next guy that really benefited me in my playing career when I got into college, but also my college coaching and even like coaching nowadays is Morgan Shepard. He was a former player himself. He had an interesting background. He did play for, I believe, D3 and then coached in D1. So he knows Greg Patton very well. He was I believe, an assistant coach for Boise State. I don't know which team. I think it was the men's or the women's, not sure. But he was first he was a character. That was what I loved about him. I find always these coaches to be characters, somehow, some way. But amazing guy, loved tennis, really passionate about tennis. But also he was a psych major. He was actually trying to get his doctorate degree or his PhD in psychology.
Okay.
So he was the person that I trusted with my mental game. He actually expanded my mental knowledge, but my mental strength, and also my mental resilience or resistance to negativity, if that makes sense.
How did he do that?
I think the biggest things he did was, one, we would always have, I would say he always had these moments during the changeovers to talk about what's going on, about certain drills. Like he would purposely make drills or do drills that I was super uncomfortable with to test me. It's like, you know, if you hear the story about Tiger and his dad, Tiger was the putting when he just keeps throwing stuff, and you're just like, what the hell's
trying to distract you.
Yeah. And that's what he taught me was he was putting me in some uncomfortable drills that he knew and purposely put there. So I would say the biggest thing, so like just those drills that he would make that would be in uncomfortable kind of situations. We would, you know, have a changeover, talk about it, and say, hey, like, what are you feeling here? What's angering you? What's, you know, pushing you over the edge a little bit? Like, you're not being yourself. And that's the biggest thing is just, you know, we would have those moments and, you know, point out the opportunities. He would always say opportunities. We would never say something negative. I think that was the biggest thing. No negativity. It was just more words and phrases that were more like, you know, more positive outlook.
You know, as coaches and as students of the game, it's just a lot of kind of hammering in your head. You know,
Correct.
like the same thing, like move the legs, turn, head down. Okay, I'm sure we've heard that thousands, millions of times, right? That's what I feel like a coach, a parent does, is kind of try to say it as much as possible in the beginning so that you don't have to say it as you get older, right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and also just as coaches too, we kind of use that as a filler. We pretty much use that as a filler if we don't want to coach that day. That's just a coaching secret. But at the same time, it's I think what made him so special, like Morgan so special, was he knew that, you know, I was a player and he treated me as a player. I mean, a lot of coaches treat, you know, students, especially their players, as like kids, right? They're like still
their own kids.
Your own kids, right? They're unmature. Like they're like, we're just gonna, you know, treat you like, you know, you're still like 6 or 7, and like
you
it's
have
like another,
to.
in a way, yeah. But I think the way he approached it was, I think it made me feel like a little more responsible for my own actions.
There you go.
And that's why, like, he treated me as a, you know, if I was a professional player, how would you be treated as? So that's why I think I was more open to his advices and his kind of knowledge to the game. He's just somehow had that layer of depth when it came to coaching because of that.
That's really deep, actually. I like that a lot. But you have to find that special pupil, you know.
Yeah,
to
I think
have
that's why he kind of opened that window to me, especially like, you know, you always find there's always that pupil that was always, or that student that always is like, you know, you give them that little nudge or that open of like window of opportunity, and then it happens.
Will they take it?
Will they take it? And it clicks. I think that's what was so unique about it was he was kind of very similar to the personality of Carlton Jones, but he just had that, you know, opportunity window. Like, I think it's just because of his psychology major.
It made you think.
Made me really think about like what is happening behind the scenes, and that what sparked my mental journey. I think that what made me, you know, mentally tough in college and mentally resilient in like, you know, competition. I think I grew from that a lot.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing your, you know, a little bit about your you know, junior life and career and learning with us today.
Of course, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Where can we find you, Coach Gu?
You can find me at AGU.tennis. I'll be posting content there as well.
Guys, thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.